Hello there, and welcome to Hammerman for today, January the 14th. We are halfway through the first month of 2019, and I gotta say, so far so good. All of my New Year's resolutions I have stuck to. I resolved to drink more, eat more, and do less. So far, absolutely no problem keeping to those. Pretty exciting. Almost as exciting as this right here. As you can see with stage 1, with the shuffled around defenses, booyah, the flawless victory. Pretty excited about that. It doesn't happen too often, and I kind of chalk it up to the fact that there's a bunch of defenses that I have that are kind of displaced. They don't have a place to go because my trees are slowly growing back on the right hand side of my screen right there. I've been putting those displaced defenses into that front row, and as you can see at this point, like, the front row is getting pretty heavily populated, which means there's less of a wall, but like, I'm kind of using those defenses as wall because I'm just like, well, these are just wall, but they have more hit points, so yay! And like, if anything does land on the far right, it really quickly goes through that, like, extra little bit and then comes in towards my main defenses. So it ends up actually working out because that right side just collapses really quickly, really easily, and then everything's drawn back into the center where I, actually want it to be. So, stage 2, also going pretty smooth. As you can see, a buttload of Riflemen again on this stage. This week honestly felt like the Rifleman week. I just felt like there was a lot of rifles coming at you. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, maybe it's not just me. I thought it was actually really nasty because I noticed that in the prototype selection from, I guess, for the last week, there has not been an option to have a damage amp, which against, well, there's no damage amp, there's no hot pocket, and there's no microwaver. Those three things are the things that will ruin the rifle swarm. Like, that is what saves you on Hammerman, and I feel like they purposely didn't put those into the store, or the prototype factory, or whatever you want to call it, because they were like, we're gonna give them a bunch of Riflemen, gonna get them good, because they're maniacal geniuses at Supercell. Now, that said, stage 3, like, I've got max defenses, and like you can see right here, my entire left side of my base just got crumpled by these Grens. It wasn't an anti-Gren base by any means, but like, holy smokes, vicious for a stage 3 against max defenses. That's nasty. I feel like stage 3, if you're not a max player, gonna be really, really tough. Obviously, though, you can bust out some prototypes and kind of help yourself do what you gotta do, but dang, Gina, nasty. Now, stage 4, once again, a whole bunch of Riflemen. That's right, just rifles, left and right, mixed in with some warriors, which is kind of nice, because the warriors actually run up and, like, get caught up on the wall, and then the Riflemen slowly work through the wall, and that just brings them closer to my wall, my next layer of defense, my other wall of short-range defenses, which just rips them up. It absolutely fantastic. Works out really, really well. And the nice thing about this is the first couple of rounds strip away that non-defensive / defensive wall, which the Grens could really, really make full use of, because it keeps them, like, even further, better placed, out of defensive range, and, like, they can really do a number to a base. But because the first couple of rounds strip away that protective layer for the Grens of my defenses, when you finally get in here, as you can see, I'm able to make relatively quick work of the Grens. They do some damage, but nothing incredibly wrong. And stage 4 goes down like the previous 3, and it works out pretty good. I actually thought stage 4 was a little easier than stage 3. So if you creep by stage 3 and you normally struggle in this range, your stage 4 probably not going to have a whole lot of problems. You're probably going to get past it, no worries. which will carry you into Stage 5. And Stage 5, again, with the Riflemen, tons and tons of Riflemen. If you're able to, throw in a few upgrades to your mines if they're not maxed out, because I tell you, having all those mines right up front, right dealing with the Riflemen, they do some serious work. And like, as far as defensive upgrade, like for this week, if you're trying to like struggle through and get an extra level or two, having some extra damage from those mines where they're gonna like all be used, huge advantage. Definitely, you know, crank some levels into those, which is weird because I normally don't like to say upgrade your mines because it distracts your armory from upgrading something more important like your offensive troops, but in this particular case, totally useful. And you know, like, depending on where you're at, maybe not that crazy. And now, when I was going through and I was recording this and I was doing all my things, I had a little bit of a laugh here. I got around to this point in the attack and I just saw what happened to that poor tank at the very end. And I'm like, I literally was sitting there thinking, like, you know that day when you're like, I should have just stayed in bed. That's exactly what that tank thought when it saw all of that coming in. Like 2 boom cannons, a regular cannon, 2 shock launchers, and then a mortar ball coming in way after the tank is done just to rub salt in the wound. Absolutely hilarious. I was just like, wow, I feel like I went a little overkill on that one. You know, maybe we could have spread that out a little bit. Could have finished the attack a good solid minute and a half earlier. But hey, whatever. You know, it is what it is. All the power to that poor tank for lasting longer than all of its comrades. But that brings us to Stage 6, which, as far as the Stage 6 goes, pretty standard. Didn't have to use any prototypes, didn't have to use any ice. Was able to cruise right in and do work on the Stage 6. It wasn't really ever like a thing I needed to worry about. The big thing is making sure you take down all the rifles before these Zookas get into the range where they can start doing work on your defenses. Having the rocket launchers just able to rain pain down on the Zookas helps so much. If those Zookas last through that portion of the attack, you're toast. You're gonna have a heck of a time. Like, honestly, it's gonna get nasty. So if you're struggling with the Stage 6, you find you're like, not quite there, hopefully you've got like a damage amp and that can get you through. If not, maybe a shock blaster, just because it'll hit a whole bunch of different troops and like hopefully whittle them down a little bit so that you can clear them out and get through to the Zookas and like make that time limit happen. Now, all of this done, moving on to Stage 7. Stage 7 was kind of tricky. I struggled with it a little bit. As you can see, I ultimately ended up with almost an anti-Gren base, which was really crazy. What it came down to is I wanted to keep maximum damage on the beach as long as possible because it is a race. Like, this is a huge Rifleman Zooka swarm, and at the end of it, the medics come out, and once those medics come out, if there are any Zookas standing at all, you are toast, because like more and more rifles just pour in constantly, and it's nasty. As you can see, I actually dropped the shock blaster because I just needed something that would get a bunch of damage out onto a bunch of different troops. Also, because the way I set it up, with the last boats, they're on opposite sides, and what I was basically hoping to do was play medic ping pong, and you can kind of see the medics are over near the end of the troops, and then they start running across, which is perfect because then the shocks, boom, lock them up. Keep them out of the attack. It allows you to finish things off, and this went so smoothly after that. Anyways, guys, thanks very much for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's been entertaining, and above all else, hopefully you guys have a fantastic day.